Hello everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to ChasingCinema.com's official YouTube channel. I'm your host, Jacob Toronto, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Fathom event that I attended last night of Batman the Killing Joke. Now, Batman the Killing Joke was supposed to be a one-night event, ended up becoming two. I actually didn't see it on the one night it was supposed to be out, which was July 25th on a Monday, because AMC theaters had completely lost its power. So I was like, oh no, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to see this movie. I obviously care a lot about this movie. But luckily, last night they played it again to obviously repay all those people who got to miss out on it. And I attended it, and now I want to review it. Yes, I'm not at AMC Town Square. No, I'm not with Mr. James Shue. This will be a much quicker review, but I just want to get out my feelings about this film. Okay, Batman. One of my most favorite things in the world. I say on my Twitter bio and all that fun stuff, Batman enthusiast. I absolutely love Batman. If you already don't know, if you've been following this channel, you already know. Being a Batman fan, I have a lot of favorite stories for either it be Frank Miller graphic novels or certain stories out of the comics. One of my all-time favorite, of course, is Alan Moore's Batman the Killing Joke, which was a one-shot graphic novel that came out in 1988 from Alan Moore, John Higgins, and Brian Bolland. And this is one of the biggest important pieces in the Batman universe. So when I heard it was going to be adapted and going to have Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill doing the voices, you could not imagine my excitement, right? Like, I was very, very pleased because I've been happy with the DC animated films that have been coming out, the ones that aren't necessarily a direct recreation or literally the direct recreation of a comic, like the Dark Knight Returns movies. But The Killing Joke has a lot of interesting things about it, right? Like, first of all, a lot of Batman fans and a lot of comic fans claim this to be, like I said, one of the most important novels in the Batman universe. Alan Moore, the very, very talented writer who wrote V for Vendetta, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and much, much more, would argue that this isn't a very good book anymore. In 2000, I believe, he was like, I don't think it's a very good book. In 2003, he was kind of elaborating on it and saying that he just felt it was clumsy and it didn't have any real-world importance because it's about two DC characters. And he would criticize, and he continues to criticize this graphic novel, which so many people consider one of the best. He criticized what he did to Barbara Gordon. And I won't say what he did to Barbara Gordon. It's spoiler. I don't want to spoil it for everybody. But, I mean, that's a pretty major thing that comes from this novel. And he has criticisms about that. So that's kind of interesting. But going into this movie, I'm so excited and I'm so ready. And then a few days before, there's this little leak about how they are inputting some backstory between Batman and Batgirl. And everyone's already asking me, like, well, what do you think about that? How do you feel about that? I said, well, I don't know. I don't want to read anything. I don't want to see anything until I see the movie. So let me hop right into my review. Okay, guys, now that I kind of got that little beginning part out of the way, I'm going to do a very, very small non-spoiler review. And then I'm going to get in and talk a lot about detail. So here's what I'll do. Here's my quick non-spoiler part of the review. Batman the Killing Joke, unfortunately, was a disappointment in my eyes. I don't think it was awful. I don't think it was bad, but to me it was a really, really disappointing movie. I think that the messages and themes that make The Killing Joke great really didn't translate well in the adaptation. I don't think they jumped off the page. I think a lot of beautiful moments or terrifying moments, depending on what you want to classify them as, don't translate or hit as hard as they do in this book. As far as the story that they included in The Killing Joke, that has to do with Barbara Gordon and Batman, I didn't care for. Like, to me, I understand that they needed to make this film a little bit more rounded. They want to give a little bit more backstory. But to me, it makes the film too long. It makes it feel kind of draggy. And these things don't necessarily pay off. I think they don't give us enough to warrant adding that information. I don't think what we get pays off in a much bigger sense later down the line. Maybe for some audiences or people who've not read the book, maybe it did. I don't know. But for me, someone who reading, I think I could have read or watched the Killing Joke movie without that 20 minute beginning or first 30 minutes, whatever it was, and have still, still took in and understand and cared about the story. In this situation, they show us a little bit more about who Barbara Gordon is and Batgirl and all this stuff, but overall it doesn't have this huge payoff or make a real big difference in the story. And in the sense that it doesn't enhance the story, I don't think it's necessary. But again, I have that bias because I do love this book and I do know these characters, so maybe someone not could have affected them more. I actually saw my co-writer Louis Vuitton, who had not read the book, and he didn't seem to mind that part, but I had showed him many of the Batman animated films, including Mask of the Phantasm, and he agreed that they are much better. Mark Hamill does a great job. The imagery, they do a really, really great job animating most of it. But to me, The Killing Joke is great because of its message and its theme. For instance, I mean, the greatest thing about The Killing Joke is just the fact that we look at Batman and Joker as the same people on different sides of this bridge, right? Or the different sides of justice, and how these, from a quote from the book, one bad day is able to separate these two characters. I mean, these tragic, horrible, random days made these two characters who they are, and they both are on the opposite sides of the spectrum. And them finding out, them kind of toying the idea that they are very much alike as much as they are different, and that they're going to have an inevitable end, really makes this book special, along with Joker's ploy against Jim Gordon. And I don't think these things translate well. Overall, I think it's a solid animation film. I think it looks great. I think the voice acting is great most of the time. Between Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, everyone else I was kind of iffy on some of the voice casting. But overall, I thought it was just an okay movie. I didn't love it, and as much as I wanted to, I wasn't able to say that I was amazed by what they did, and I'm kind of disappointed. Now I'm going to be moving on to the spoiler section of this review. So, I heard some criticisms that when Barbara Gordon is shot, it doesn't hold water. Like, it doesn't have that effect. And that part I disagree with. I actually thought the scene goes into slow-mo and we see Barbara Gordon shot, and she throws back, and like she kind of, right before she makes this zoom-in face and like really focuses on what's going on, I thought was actually quite good. It's later, and it's Joker's it's Joker's song and dance as Jim Gordon is going through the Funhouse ride, and it's the message that he's trying to prove at the point he's trying to prove, as he says. Really just doesn't, it hits, like I think people get it, but I don't think it has as much meaning, and it just doesn't hold, God, what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't hit with the same force. And I think that part, especially the song part of this movie, when he's singing the song through this ride, it really just kind of loses that darkness and that terrifying feeling you get reading Joker's words. I also didn't feel that, another great part about The Killing Joke is seeing one of the many possible origins of the Joker. And in this case, the origin of the Joker is him being the Red Hood and falling into into one of the vats of the chemical plant. And even to me, that scene didn't necessarily translate as well. And I don't know what it was. It just didn't feel as powerful as a punch. Like, this is a book that you could show someone and say, you want to know about Batman and Joker and you want to see how dark this could get, check this out. And then I watched the movie and it just kind of floated over me rather than like hit me, or I really felt what was going on, or emotions, as I do when I'm reading this book. And that could be one of those bias. I've always said don't judge a movie on a book, right? Like, you have to look at a movie on its own. And if I was to look at this movie on its own, I got where it was going. I thought even for the short amount of time it was too lengthy. It felt long. It felt like it was dragging. Some of the voice casting I didn't necessarily care for, and I don't think it had any powerful punch or any real emotion or anything I could really get invested in. And that's disappointing because that is the exact opposite of this book. That's my review for The Killing Joke. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down here in the comment section below. I'd be glad to talk to you about it. I'm sure a lot of people are feeling mixed about this. So please let me know down here in the bottom. I will say, really quick, which I did forget, I will say that the music of this movie is quite good, and after we got to see a little bit of documentary of the music, but the score was quite good, but overall, underwhelmed, and that's really a bummer because I was really, really excited for this. But I hope they continue to bring these amazing stories to life on film, and hopefully they will do better as they continue. I mean, I'm very happy with the DC animated universe, and I hope that they continue making movies, even though I was disappointed in this particular one. If you enjoyed this review, slap a like on it. Let me know that I'm doing a good job. Also, never miss any of my video reviews by hitting that subscribe button right down here. You can also check out my review for Nerve, my Week 29 update, amongst other things. So, check it out. Let me know. My name is Jacob Toronto. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please continue chasing cinema.